All right. Welcome everyone to the December 22nd Helm Developer Call. The first announcement and really only thing on the agenda is that we will not have a meeting next week, as doesn't look like anybody's going to be around to have a meeting. And we will pick up again in the first week of January, which is January 5th. And that's all we have on the agenda for today. Does anybody have anything else?
When is our first January release? Because it's pushed back a week, right?
Push back a week. I think it's the 18th.
And that's a patch release, right?
A minor release.
Minor
so new
release.
features can come in, and since we've got some maintainers here, there's a whole bunch of stuff in the backlog that has one approval on it, which means we're waiting on a second approver to merge it. And there's a whole bunch of things. I think the only really hairy one that I see is we want to get showing resources again. We used to have that in Helm v2. Then there were changes in the packages we used, and it fell off in Helm v3. There is a legitimate pull request to bring that back in, and it just needs review. In fact, it's got that nice separation of concern. So YAML works and everything comes out in a YAML structure or in a JSON structure. They did all of that legwork to make it work because I kept reviewing it and giving them feedback. And so that's one. I don't have a review on it because I approved it and then they go some updates. And so I'll have to go reapprove it. But it did look good if somebody wants to go in there and be that second approver. But this is the big thing that we need right now is just folks to review stuff so we can get it in. And did I say January 18th? Is January 18th a Wednesday?
I don't know. I'm looking at the milestone and it does say January 18th.
Oh, wow. I remembered right. And the 18th is the third Wednesday of the month. So that is it. Yeah. So if we can get folks who can get some time to review things, there's a number of things that need to be reviewed and already have one approver and they just need a second.
I got a bunch of time coming with the holidays, so I'm happy to start playing around.
Oh, I will share that issue with you right now.
Oh, awesome.
I just need to get into the milestone.
I did look at from the last call the item around the Git metadata, and I have a bunch of comments that I need to follow up with them on.
And if you've got OCI ones that you want to see reviewed, let me know. I'm happy to be a reviewer on them.
There's a large amount of OCI work currently being done on a separate branch that is meant to address a lot of the improvements that need to be made for OCI.
Oh, Scott, approve the one I wanted. Oh, perfect. That means I can approve it now and get it in. But the one I was talking about was this one here. There are a number, if you go to the milestone, that already have a single approval on them. They just need a second approval. I'll drop the milestone in. Some of them are really rather simple. One of the other ones, and since I'm yammering and nobody has any other agenda items, is bringing in external files has come up again. It is in this milestone. I'm probably going to move it out of all milestones. Forgetting the security topic, which they have not addressed the security issues, and I point blank asked them. It's currently not architected in a way that I would want to bring it in because it expects business logic to read the file system in a way that is going to make it not compatible with people who want to use the SDK to do operators well. They can't inject those external files through another means. They'd have to write them to the file system, and then you'd have to read them off the file system. And just the API doesn't work for me. If I think about operators and stuff like that, trying to use this functionality. And that's separate from the security issue. But that one is still rolling around in the background. I'll probably just move it out of all milestones now because they're not addressing the issues. But they are active on it. So they are active and working on it. They're just not addressing our concerns. That's all I got. I've just had a lot of free time with, half my meetings being canceled the last week. It's or 3/4 of my meetings being canceled. It's wonderful.
Seriously, it's so nice.
Okay, I'm looking through. There's actually quite a few that just need one LGTM to get merged. So I'll spend a little bit of time looking for easy ones.
Because this is one place you're allowed to review code.
It might be the last place.
I guess if we want to talk about total one other random one-off things, we have a Twitter account. Should we have a Mastodon account somewhere?
Oh, geez. And then what server do you want to sign up on?
I was gonna say, then that turns into the politics of, do we want one on like the InfoSec Mastodon server, which apparently is becoming
InfoSec?
controversial. There's one that all the InfoSec people seem to be gathering toward, except for the ones who are like, no, I don't like that server maintainer, so I'm absolutely not going to go there.
Helm is not an InfoSec tool, and so therefore my justification would be no, I don't want InfoSec people going and looking at all our Helm code.
But that's the thing. Well, there's that. But the thing that I wonder is there an equivalent of the InfoSec, like a topic-based thing in the Mastodon Fediverse that Helm would fit into?
I would recommend going to where most of the CNCF content and users are.
And the problem is there isn't one place where most of them are going.
I know.
I think they're working on it. Like the official statement is like someone from CNCF working on like community stuff is going to look into it. So I think kind of what some projects are doing is just going somewhere for now with the intention of moving later on. So if we want to end up somewhere where there will be most CNCF content, like, do we want to just wait, or do we want to just set up shop now?
Is there a possibility that CNCF might set one up?
That's what I'm saying. Like that's kind of the official statement, is that they're looking into it. I think the idea is yes, just because like it really, I personally think that makes no sense that like CNCF would host the server. Because as Joe is stating in the chat, like Chris has officially said that like things, especially under CNCF, Chris does not want in Hatchie Derm. So we can't go there explicitly in the meantime, even.
Yeah, I mean, there's other places that are probably fine, like
Yeah.
Mastodon, if we wanted to go in the short term, just because they're all about free and open source software and they're okay with this kind of thing. There are other projects on there. I think, there's some big name projects on there. There's also Mastodon.social open back up for registrations. I don't know if they've closed again, but they did open back up. But since it's December 22nd and we don't need to make a call now, right? Just keep it in mind. Maybe one of the things is in the new year, see where the CNCF is at when they come in fresh, if it's in their plans or anything like that. And then if not, try to make a decision. I mean, it's December 22nd.
I don't think there's any compelling reason for us to be spearheading the CNCF move into the Mastodon world.
Yeah.
We might as well let them figure it out and follow along, unless it turns out that they're not going to do it, right? And we want to do it.
Like, Karen, have they set a timeline on when they'll decide?
I haven't seen that. Should I like try submitting a support desk to get to see where things are at? Yeah. Okay. Let me follow up and see where they're at.
As we're all watching Twitter kind of slowly fall apart.
I wonder if the Linux Foundation as a whole, as a parent organization, might end up doing something then. Because if you've got to host something for each of your foundations, that sounds like a real pain in the neck. But if the Linux Foundation as a whole did it, that may not be so bad. But we can go feel them out next year. All right.
I got a random.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I got a random question because it's been a little while since I've been able to make this meeting. So I was kind of skimming back over the notes and seeing references to like brainstorming Helm 4 and, this and that, little dribs and drabs about Helm 4. is there any kind of growing consensus as to like when chronologically Helm 4 might actually start to become a thing?
Chronologically, no. When you get a bunch of maintainers who are interested and have the time to put into it, that's what will be it. And I expect that we'd probably need some new maintainers to come on and come up to speed and then have the energy to chase after it before we'll go to it, or have existing maintainers all of a sudden have free space open up, and that won't be me to drive that. And I doubt Dr. Butcher will have that freedom anytime soon either.
Dr. Butcher, CEO.
Yeah. I doubt he's too busy in the marketing meetings now.
Oh, the unkindest cut.
It's true, he's my boss. Would that be like an interesting topic we would want to put out during the Helm maintainer track talk then at KubeCon?
I think we need to get more maintainers first, because
mean,
if
like,
people have
that
all these
incredible.
ideas for Helm, but they don't really know the space,
Mhm.
then they're going to have a hard time. And you know, I've talked to a number of people over time and saying, yes, we should go do this and this. And they literally break what Helm does and
Yeah.
where it fits, because they're not trying to improve on what Helm is. They're trying to make it something different. And that would be my fear.
What I meant was more of like, should we put it out, like, should we put out like the things that need to happen in order for Helm 4 to like make some progress, right? Like whether it's like gaining more maintainers and things like that, but making that kind of the explicit thing that needs to happen first. If that makes sense, just an idea.
Maybe. I'm just not sure where or how.
I mean, I think about this a lot too, because, you know, the whole industry is constricting. And so that energy that you need to do something like that, you know, Helm 4, where is that coming from? Is it coming from people out of college? Is it coming from, you know, all of us that keep getting more and more added to our, you know, plates? You know, who's going to, like you said, who's going to drive that?
You know, and if you look at the CNCF space, I was poking around on dev stats, and I went to dev stats for all projects. And I said, what's the country breakdown? Because I was curious, what's the country percentage breakdown across the CNCF for contributions? And I was looking at contributors and committers, right? And the most interesting thing that popped out to me was not the country breakdown, but it was the fact that right now you can go see 2019, 2020, and 2021. And I expect that to roll. So we'll see more come the next year. But for these 3 years, you saw a constant regression across the board of committers across and contributors across the CNCF. But now if you switch that to commits and contributions, you don't see the regression. So you have fewer people doing approximately the same amount of contributions across the board. And so there is a switch that's happening here. And you can definitely see it on Helm, but it's happening CNCF wide. And I think, you know, I've got lots of opinions on why, but we're just seeing this as a whole.
Is a recorded community call where we should discuss that, or is that?
Or just be rampant speculation. But, you know, I mean, the people who go and invent new things and are always interested in creating the next new things aren't always the same people who want to consistently maintain things over time. So lots of people go around inventing new stuff all the time, and then they pass it off to other people who continue its maintenance over the long life of it, right? And now it's become, many things have become mature in the CNCF space. So how do we then switch from those people who invented things to the people who maintain things for the long haul? And I don't think we've done a very good job of that as just a CNCF community. It's an area we can work on. That's my 2 cents.
Well, and I wonder what the split is really between end users and vendors. When it comes to a smaller number of people, you know, with the same number of commits.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have not looked into those kinds of splits yet. That's a much harder thing. That's not something DevStats is just going to show me at the by pointing and clicking. So
Yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting because, as let's see, and I asked the question when Kelsey was out here for some Google Cloud meetup. And so I asked that, I was like, okay, well, if we're supposed to keep maintaining, how are people planning that into their budgets? Because you still have to plan it into your engineering budget. And every company does that differently. Some companies are more geared towards upstream and open source. Others, they plan their budgets where those type of engineering cycles just aren't planned in. It's, I mean, across the board, I think it's interesting to look at, but it's a bigger industry-wide problem.
it definitely is an industry-wide problem. And how do you start to address it? That's kind of a CNCF problem. And we've seen it turn ugly in a few projects that have lost too many maintainers to be viable. Some of that showed up on the TOC list. And so I won't name them here on this recorded call, but a couple of projects have run into problems, and it's caused into project problems when they're dependencies of other projects. And so how do we handle that needs to be a little bit more elegant. We're not going to solve it in Helm today, but trying to figure that out. I'd love to have time to put more together. Yes, this chat isn't recorded. Yes, you're right. Chat isn't recorded, but I'd love to put it together, something to help more people just to be able to more easily come on board with Helm, to understand it. There's too much context in the heads of some of us, and how do we write that down so that other people can come along and learn it?
And I mean, that'd be awesome, because as I look through even the web ones and the questions that people are asking, and then I have to go dive in and understand the code better myself, just to answer simple, documentation questions. So
Well, there's some prior art on that too, because I remember a couple of years ago, by virtue of a small contribution that I made to Helm, I was eligible to go to the Kubernetes Maintainer Summit that year, and they had a whole track of not only like, let's give you a bunch of information, but it was actually like, let's actually have you make a contribution, and they walked you through the whole process of cloning the project, going in, making your change, pushing it back up to GitHub as a PR, et cetera, et cetera. You actually had come out of it having had done a contribution in the approved way to Kubernetes. Obviously, Kubernetes is a larger and probably more complex project than Helm, but something along those lines of like, here's a maintainer how-to, like maintainer day one, week one, month one for Helm, I think would go a long way. But then, of course, with all the maintainers being as busy as they are, who's going to get to write it?
Yeah. Now, I'll jump in and say real quick here. Somebody said a working group in the CNCF level. That would be tag contributor strategy. They are the ones who are working on this. So if you're looking for a space, it exists. There's a Slack room for it. They have regular meetings, and this is one of the top things on their mind, because even projects like Kubernetes have seen a reduction in contributors and committers. There are some parts in the code where I think they're struggling to have regular maintainers who show up and work on it. And so, yeah, this is, even though Kubernetes did something like this, part of this is then finding those bodies and encouraging them to show up and be part of the community and do the work. When we're looking into different areas, some of this is going to be going to a long tail of companies. Some of it, I would like to see more end users involved in this, right? Not just vendors.
I think some of the value of Kubernetes doing that was for those people who were kind of straddling the fence of like, I think this is a thing that I would like to do and be good at, but I don't know how to get started. So by default, I'm not going to do anything with it. Like, it was an opportunity for them to go, oh, this is totally a thing I can grab onto and start making a contribution with.
Yeah.
Actually, so I'm actually in that tag already. But I guess like I don't know, like, if from like the TOC level, like this has been like the pattern that you saw across the board with like multiple projects, right? Like where people aren't like that there are less people contributing than there are like doing commits and reviewing and whatnot. Like, has that been shared with that group? Because like I'm part of that group, and like, like I can only rely on like my experience and whoever comes to our meetings and whatnot, like their experience. But like obviously there's something happening at a higher level. I'm wondering if like that's been brought to like the group's attention. I haven't been to the last few meetings, but yeah, because it does seem like it's all up. And if anyone here is interested, usually the meetings are actually like right after the Helm meeting on Thursdays, so that's when they would be. But yeah, I think the group is trying real hard, but it's just like the more people we get involved, the better it will go. So yeah, that's my invitation. And yeah, it would be good to kind of see and hear opinions from lots of different projects, which we try and do. But again, it's just like, it's really hard to like see things across the board.
Yeah, the TOC and I believe the governing board are both aware of the situation.
Yeah.
The TOC, I'll speak from experience. We have so many things going on that being able to pour a bunch of time into it is just not something we're going to have time. As I keynoted, and you see these stacks of paper and dealing with all these processes and all these things going on, we spend a lot of time doing that stuff. So getting into the nitty gritty of how do we solve this isn't something we necessarily have space for. We're kind of looking for tag contributor strategy to try to chase that down right now, because we just haven't had the space.
But are working groups not a thing anymore? Because I thought they were meant to be like very specific goal oriented groups.
Sure.
Yeah.
And working groups have all moved under tags or are in the
Oh,
process of
completely.
moving under
Okay.
tags. So
Yeah.
tags will own the working groups
see.
and manage them that way. Yeah. So if they want to have a working group, the tag wants to have a working group that specifically focuses on this, that's at the discretion of the tag to set up.
Gotcha.
So does anybody have anything else? Maybe something more exciting to talk about?
I finished my scone.
He said.
So many meetings that your break to eat is the Helm meeting.
And he didn't share, not that we're complaining. I am though.
Is it cold where everyone is? Seems like most of the nation is being.
I think Matt is right now, our butcher.
What's the temperature, Matt?
It is warmed up. It started -15. We're up to -9
Ooh.
Fahrenheit. That is Fahrenheit.
I get the fun of the cold and the massive amount of lake effect snow. I'm in Buffalo, so we're getting like another 35 inches of snow with a blizzard. We have official blizzard warnings for the next couple of days, so it should be fun.
Yeah, we're only going to get like 8 to 10 inches of snow, so we're not as bad as you. And it'll drop down, but it's not going to drop below 0 Fahrenheit here. Yeah,
It's
thanks,
in
Sarah.
the. I'm looking at my thermometer and it says it's in the mid 30s right now. And a week from Saturday, it's supposed to get up to 60.
Yeah, it's gonna get warmer across the U.S. next week. Something to look forward to.
That means snow on Christmas, right? For most people, though, that should be fun. No, is it? Oh, because it gets too cold at a certain point, right?
Right. It usually in the 15 to 30 range is when you get the best snow.
Yeah.
Anything colder, it just becomes like crystals.
And
Really
well, the big problem for me with a lot of snow is then I have to shovel a path for my dogs. They can't even go outside into the yard.
Did that this morning. Poor dog was just kind of whimpering and didn't want to be cold.
We have toast for our dog.
We have an older dog who, with the cold weather, has decided she does not like to go outside, and therefore she will actually go outside. She'll pee outside, but then she'll do her other business in the house right after coming back in. So we have to be very careful about making sure that she goes out frequently enough to actually get to, do everything out there.
Mine just keeps asking to go out every 5 minutes because he's so excited about it now.
Also of note, it's not an open source maintainer meeting without a visit from somebody's cat. So we have now had that be fulfilled.
My cat is seriously sleeping on top of a heating register right now.
Oh,
All right, so we're about to wrap up. Is there anybody who wants to moderate or take notes or issue triage for the next couple of weeks?
I'm not sure I'll be here the first Thursday. It's a maybe. I can.
I
help
can
it.
moderate that day.
I'll do what I can for triage, but probably nothing this next week.
It'll be hit and miss. So
Yeah.
if people are around,
I can do notes on the 5th.
you can do
January.
notes. All right.
Yeah.
It's before you put yourself back in meeting season.
Oh, hey,
Yeah, the week after it gets a little wild, but that one it's still pretty calm.
when you take that one PR out of the milestone, can you create some label that says specifically that it's not to be milestone, so that I don't just randomly put it back in?
It's probably old enough. You're not going to find it. It's a pull request I'm pulling out. The notes will say something. I don't think we have a label not to. I'm okay if it goes back in once they clean it up.
Yeah.
Right. It's
I
the
just-
fact that they haven't addressed the issues or cleaned it up. And so I think they need to do that. And it's far enough, but it's old enough. You're not going to see it in what's coming in.
Well,
It's many pages deep.
it shows up because I'll look at the things, the issues that get marked stale, and then follow up to see where they're, what's being worked on.
So the actual issue that was filed for this has it has whatever it is, it's the keep label. So it won't get marked as stale. And the pull request has had constant, consistent activity on it. And so if it goes stale, it's because they don't want to address our issues. The original issue was filed back in the Tiller days.
I was thinking some way of communicating that you don't want a label on it, or don't want a milestone on things would be handy.
Oh yeah, no, I just, it's not that I don't want a milestone. It's I'm not going to put it into 3.12 because they're not on track to have something ready unless they start actually acting on the feedback. And that's the reason I'm not going to.
Can we make
it
it
into a milestone.
3.4? Can we make it 3.13 and just move it to there?
Yeah, but we don't have that milestone created yet.
Okay.
So. All right. Well, is there anything else?
Just happy holidays, I think.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. See y'all on the flip side.
Thanks.
Here's
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.